In the early 7th century, the Arabian Peninsula was not a place anyone expected history to rise from. It was a land of tribes, of poets, of merchants, of endless deserts. Caught between two superpowers, the Byzantine Empire to the west and the Persian Empire to the east, Arabia was politically insignificant. No king, no empire, no central authority. But within a single lifetime, this land would produce a movement that would reshape politics, religion, language, science, and culture across 3 continents. And it began with one man in the city of Mecca. Arabia before Islam was tribal and fragmented. Loyalty was to your clan, not a country. Mecca was a vital trade hub, controlled by the powerful Quraysh tribe. At its center stood the Kaaba, already an ancient sanctuary, but housing hundreds of idols worshipped by different tribes. There was no unifying belief, no shared governance, and constant draining tribal warfare. This environment made any kind of long-term peace nearly impossible. Then, a message began to spread. A message of radical monotheism, of justice, and of unity. The message preached the equality of all believers, accountability before one God, and social justice for the poor and marginalized. This was revolutionary, and it was threatening. Persecution in Mecca became so intense that it led to a migration to the city of Medina. This event, known as the Hijra in 622 CE, was a major turning point, so significant that it marks the beginning of the Islamic calendar. And in Medina, something extraordinary happened. A religious community became a political state. Tribes that had fought for generations began to unite under a shared constitution, known today as the Constitution of Medina. This was one of the earliest written social contracts in history, establishing rights and responsibilities for Muslims, Jews, and other communities living together. For the first time, Arabia experienced centralized leadership. By the time of the Prophet's passing in 632 CE, most of the Arabian Peninsula was unified. But this new unity immediately faced a critical question. Who would lead next? This led to the era of the Rightly Guided Caliphs. The first was Abu Bakr. He immediately faced a series of rebellions, known as the Ridda Wars, as some tribes tried to break away. He successfully reunified Arabia and stabilized the fragile new state. His successor, Umar ibn al-Khattab, took the reins, and under his leadership, the impossible happened. In just a decade, the fledgling Muslim state defeated the mighty Persian and Byzantine empires in decisive battles like Yarmouk and Qadisiyah. Syria, Egypt, Iraq, and all of Persia fell. This rapid expansion was unprecedented. But Umar wasn't just a military leader. He was an administrator. He established a state treasury, a formal judicial system, administrative provinces, and even welfare stipends for the needy. This was no longer a tribal alliance. It was an empire. The third caliph, Uthman ibn Affan, oversaw further expansion into North Africa and Central Asia. His most lasting contribution was standardizing the written text of the Quran to ensure its integrity across the vast empire. But his rule was troubled by accusations of favoritism toward his own clan, which caused widespread unrest. This culminated in his assassination, the first major internal crisis, a wound that would never fully heal. His successor, Ali ibn Abi Talib, saw his rule consumed by civil war, the first fitna. The political disagreements over leadership turned into armed conflict and permanent divisions within the Muslim community. After Ali himself was assassinated, the era of elected, or selected, leadership came to a close. Dynastic rule was about to begin. The Umayyad Dynasty seized power and moved the capital from the Arabian heartland to the ancient city of Damascus. They were empire builders. Under their rule, the Islamic Empire expanded to its greatest geographical extent, stretching from Spain, known as Al-Andalus, all the way to the borders of India. They professionalized the state, making Arabic the official administrative language. introducing standard coinage and building a strong centralized bureaucracy. Importantly, they established a system that allowed religious freedom for Christians, Jews, and other faiths under their rule in exchange for a tax. However, many Muslims felt the Umayyads ruled like kings, not like the humble successors of a prophetic model. Their opulent courts and hereditary rule created deep resentment, which slowly but surely began to boil over. In 750 CE, a revolution swept the Umayyads from power. The Abbasids, claiming a closer lineage to the Prophet, took control. And they didn't just change the rulers. They shifted the entire center of gravity of the empire. They built a magnificent new capital from scratch, Baghdad. For the next few centuries, Baghdad was the center of the world. It became a crucible where Greek philosophy, Persian administration, Indian mathematics, and Arab scholarship all merged. The legendary House of Wisdom was established, a massive library and translation institute that preserved and expanded upon the knowledge of the ancient world. This era gave the world algebra, thanks to Al-Khwarizmi. It produced incredible advances in medicine from pioneers like Al-Razi and Ibn Sina. Scholars made breakthroughs in astronomy, optics, and geography. Trade routes flourished, connecting China to Spain through the markets of Baghdad. At its peak, the city was wealthier, larger, and more intellectually vibrant than any city in Europe. But luxury often brings corruption, and a fatal flaw remained. There was still no clear, unbreakable system of succession. This weakness began to show. As the caliphs in Baghdad grew more distant and ceremonial, the governors in faraway provinces grew more powerful. They began to rule like independent kings, keeping tax revenues for themselves, establishing their own local dynasties in places like Spain, Egypt, and Persia. The Abbasid Caliph remained a powerful symbol, the nominal head of the Muslim world, but in reality, his power had fragmented. The empire was united in name, but divided in practice. This internal decay left it vulnerable. Then, in 1258, a catastrophe. The Mongol hordes, led by Hulagu Khan, arrived at the gates of Baghdad. The city that had symbolized knowledge, wealth, and power for half a millennium fell in a matter of days. The Mongols showed no mercy. Libraries, including the House of Wisdom, were destroyed, their books thrown into the Tigris River until the water ran black with ink. Scholars were killed. The last Abbasid Caliph was executed. This was the brutal, symbolic end of the centralized Islamic empire. But though the empire was shattered, its influence did not vanish. Arabic had become a global language of scholarship for centuries. The religion of Islam continued to spread far beyond the old imperial borders, across Africa, Asia, and into Europe. The scientific and philosophical works that were saved from Baghdad would later be translated into Latin, helping to fuel the European Renaissance. The legal systems, the architecture, the traditions of learning, all of these carried the imprint of the civilization. The empire ended. The civilization did not. From desert tribes to a world-spanning civilization. From incredible unity to bitter division. From a golden age of knowledge to a tragic, fiery destruction. The story of the early caliphates is not just about conquest. It is about how leadership, faith, governance, and human nature all intertwine to shape history. And it's a powerful reminder that even the greatest empires can fall, but their ideas can outlive them forever. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment on what you want to see next.